What was it like getting in this morning into the office? Well, let's take a look. There you are, the mouth that roars got in through the dark this morning. And I'm happy to say, here we are. And it looks as if we're actually working. Now, this is an interesting day, apart from the fact that I've got a nice steam train standing there behind me, ready to go to visit Father Christmas. And that's Tony Johnson. He interesting chap, because he doesn't say too much sometimes, and then suddenly he pops up, and he's heard me rave about the fact that I'm a steam train nut. I just love steam trains, and I got models coming out of my ears, and all sorts of things. And then suddenly he pops up and says, "Oh, by the way, here's a new background to your morning goings on, and what's there but this lovely steam train." With the snow gently falling, and somewhere out in the wilds. What more could a man ask for? Tony, you're a genius. Absolutely fantastic. Now, the next thing that is hopefully, this is a signal day, because we've been promising this for a few weeks, and one way or another, the old technology gets in the way. But both Tony and Nick have been working their little butts off, their cotton socks off, to try and beat the technology and get us into some sort of decent shape as a television station. Now, that doesn't mean to say that what you'll get in a stream can't be seen on the regular platforms of Facebook, our own YouTube, our own website, miradortelevision.com. You can see them individually, but we will have a rolling stream of 3 hours, this program plus 2 more throughout the day, with a variety of programs. We've got coming up Stuart Dalton on energy. We've got Liza Page with a key interview. We've got Sarah Fitch Hayes with painting. We've got a whole range of programs for you to see. There's even one that I do that everybody took a look at, because basically it's called Tall Tales. Did it happen or didn't it? You make up your own mind. So those are, as long as I do the technology properly and hit the right button, then we should be all right. If I don't, Tony's going to have to come rushing in and get it going later in the day. But looking out now, it's getting light now. But here's what you can expect out there this morning: is it's going to be some showers. The temperature is presently, well, it started off at 1 this morning, early on, and it's risen to about 3 right now, and the maximum that it will hit today is 8. So still pretty chilly. But what's more, there is a fairly stiff breeze expected, and that, of course, makes it feel colder than it really is. So look at the snow behind me, and it's gently falling. And it should be reflecting a stiff breeze, but it's not. There's nobody coming in this morning. Stuart's taken the day off. No, he hasn't. He's gone down to Worcester to see his family. We'll get rid of that, shall we? Yeah. That's because Tony and I were in here yesterday working on the programs. Life in television never stops. And may I say that we have put out an appeal. Appeal for people to come and get involved. We don't care. We're not ageist here. We're not sexist. We don't discriminate in any way. We're happy to see anybody who wants to get involved with Mirador. We don't pay a wage, but you do get to share in a pool of the advertising money and so on that comes in. But we particularly have put out an appeal to older folk because they seem to think that the television camera won't like them, and they're too old to appear, and that looks strange and odd. Rubbish. We actually only have one person that I'm aware working at Mirador under 40 at the moment. Everybody else is over 40. The under 40 is that handsome young man, Fergus Wood, who is the wine expert, and he's helping me out as co-host once a week at the moment. Andrew Sloan, I think, is just slightly nudging over 40, but some of us are well into golden years, shall we say, or the winter of our life. So do come and join us. It doesn't matter, even if you say, well, I can't get out of the house, or it's difficult for me to get out of the house. That's fine. Now that we're playing with the technology, we can actually come into your home without us ever coming into your home. All you need is to make sure that you've got either a phone or a computer, and away we go. So do join us. I don't care how old you are. It is all this celebration of youth. Most of them aren't very good on television anymore, and I say that after almost 60 years in the business, and not as an old curmudgeon. They're not properly trained. Some of them are absolutely a disgrace, and some of them I can't listen to, and that's why figures fall off. Because we in television have to work at getting viewers. They don't come just because we're here. But anyway, back to the age thing. Don't let it worry you. I don't care whether you're 120. If you can still be articulate, then you are welcome to be part of this Lewes-based television company enterprise, which covers very much the local Newtonards and Seaford and Uckfield. It nudges into Eastbourne, and it nudges slightly into Brighton on the Falmer border. Falmer being where the stadium is for the Brighton Seagulls, Brighton Hove Albion football club, which isn't Brighton and Hove Albion at all. It's Falmer. Right? It's Falmer, the Falmer Seagulls. is in Lewes, like a lot of other things that people see. Oh, by the way, if you are into a ghostly thing, and we're preparing some ghost stories for you, because there are some good ghost stories over the this part of the world. And we do try to look at things that will be intriguing to people outside the Lewes area. So there are a few ghost stories, but we have one in this building. And it was Tony that first said he was working here one Sunday night about 9 o'clock, and somebody came up in the lift and walked along the corridor. When he went to look, there was nobody, and the alarm hadn't gone off. And so all in all, we have a ghost. And I was in here early this morning, of course, getting ready for this program. And I heard the lift go, and I took a peek out through the door. Nobody there. So he's a friendly ghost. Hasn't attacked us yet. Oh, I can even hear him now, I think, unless somebody's come into the building. But anyway, we do have a resident ghost, and a nice chap he is as well. He gives us a little bit of a giggle, unlike the ghosts at Upper Dicker in Mickleham Priory. Where one ghost is rather naughty and goes around pinching the bottoms of ladies. And it's true. Many a lady has complained of being nipped when there's nobody around at all. I mean, that was some priory, because the monks were very, very naughty. They had a pub at the gates, and they went wenching in the village. I don't suppose we're supposed to use that sort of word anymore, but that's what they did in their time. So anyway, that's the famous place for ghosts in near Lewes and in East Sussex. But here we've got a nice friendly ghost who hasn't nipped anybody's bottoms, as far as I'm aware. So we're going to carry on after Break an Egg with some more programs, and I hope that you'll dip in throughout the day, which you can, to take a look some interesting stuff. And we are going to expand those programs. Fergus will be back with his wine program. Andrew Sloan will be here with Snip Chat, which is proving technically just a little bit more difficult to do than we thought. But he will be here, and we will be hearing what people are saying in the barber's chair. So those two are on the go, and I'm now going to spearhead what will be our flagship, and that is to have a virtual pub. It will be a virtual pub in Lewes, in which we can invite guests, famous or otherwise. They can sit with us in the pub, but because it's a virtual pub, anybody from around the world will be able to join us and have a drink and have a chat, just as if they were there. Now, this will prove very popular in the last lockdown. If, in fact, we go to a new lockdown, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, then it'll be a place where people can meet and they can meet their friends and have a chat without leaving home. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? We had Melissa Conte with us last. I see things flash up, and particularly because I worked and lived in Kosovo for a while, I'm interested in what happens in television there. And every time they go live, it pops up on my phone and says, "We're live, we're live." I suppose we pop up on their phones too. Well, I hope we do. They're able to tap in because I am remembered there and I remember them very well. But anyway, getting back to the pub and what we hope to do in the future, we're trying to do the very, very interesting things, not only for us here in Lewes and the surrounding area, but for the country, and for that matter, once we are really underway and out of the dreaded financial situation that lockdown put us in, then we hope that we can go back to broadcasting to the world. And it was a remarkable thing, and the infrastructure is still there. We're just waiting to push the button. That a little, I always say, a potty little television station in Lewes can broadcast to literally billions of people around the world and in every country in the world, at least every country where there's a television set, and there aren't many countries where there isn't. And it also means that you can get us on your smartphone here, on your iPhone, and the other one, is it called an Android or whatever? And you can also get us on smart TVs. So it broadens our perspective enormously, and that's where we're heading. So it's hopefully all a go here at Mirador. And I started to talk to you about Melissa Conte. Yeah. Now Melissa was in Lewes for 3 days last week and just loved it. Melissa lives in New York. This was only her second visit to the United Kingdom. The first one was 20 years ago, when the two of us were working I was working at Reuters and she was working at PBS, and I was the London anchor for her program, Morning and Nightly Business Report, which went coast to coast daily in the States. And that's how we met. We met once in London, had a drink in the Cheshire Cheese. She's actually taken a photograph, which I hope she'll send to me soon, of us here, because there was one taken 20 years ago, and now there's one taken just last week when she was here. But anyway, Harveys were very generous in giving her a tour of the brewery, and particularly since her son Connor, who appears from time to time doing food programs from the United States for us, is a aficionado of actually making his own beer. So he wanted to see how Harveys, which is known even in the States, was made. So in fact, Miles Jenner himself gave them a tour, and he came out brimming with ideas. So he's actually going to try hard to replicate, if he can, as a home brewer, Harvey's bitter. And he's going to then gently get DHL or somebody to bring over a couple of bottles, and we're going to ask Miles Jenner whether he will actually taste it and see how close it is to the bitter that you get in the pub. Not a bad challenge. Not a bad idea at all. Anyway, I've riveted on a wee bit. I've given you the weather. I will again, because so many people just tap in now and again. Let's see. Have we got anybody there? We've got a couple of people. There's Mickey Connors is with us again this morning. A freezing temperature and 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. That's tomorrow. And he says pipes will freeze, water won't flow, we might suffer power cuts. Get batteries for a torch or candles and some food that doesn't need cooking in case we're without power. And indeed, Mickey is absolutely right. There is a weather warning out starting tomorrow morning and lasting all day, that we are going to get violent winds across the UK, including our area here, Sussex and East Sussex, Lewis and East Sussex. So do be careful. And as Mickey says, get your act together, because if you are locked in, I mean, one of the things we can do here at Mirador is we can actually lock in me. And through electronic wizardry, we can still do a program. Not quite as sophisticated as we would like, but we can actually do a program. So if we're locked in, we'll be still able to bring you news and so on as it happens. But if you're locked in, you won't be able to move, because the travel, the winds are going to be so severe, the travel may be disrupted. Buses won't run, trains won't run, and airplanes most certainly will not take off. One of the controversies, or controversies, whichever pronunciation you prefer, is that the new travel regulations hit next Tuesday, and the stricture of coming in and out of the country is going to be a bit more difficult and a bit tighter. So let's go back to where we've got our little standby videos, if they work, and we'll start to take a look at the papers. What is the time now? The time is 17 minutes past 8. So I've been rabbiting on for 17 minutes. And I hope that something that I've said appeals to you. And I hope that throughout the day that you will have some programs which will appeal to you. We did put out a little thing over the weekend on local social media saying this is what was happening today. And I hope that you got it. And if you did, that you'll tap in from time to time. And if you didn't, we'll be sending it to you anyway. is the whole crowd are on. So we are forging a nice team at Mirador, a very competent team, but decent people who work very hard and are willing to work on the basis that if you make money, you can share it. And if you don't make money, then what are you doing there in the first place? So if you're a little older, if you're a bit older, if you're much older, and you really want to be part of television, you want to have your relatives see you doing something on TV, contact us. I think it's Sir Genry Mirador, all one word, SirJenryMirador. I'll go through that at gmail.com. Sir Genry Mirador at gmail.com. Now, sometimes on this behind me, we have the sculpture, which is of a medieval knight's helmet down in the priory grounds. And Sir Genry is the knight that wore that helmet. And we named him that because we looked at the names that were prevalent at that time. John and Henry were particularly noted. Indeed, it was the medieval times, and the Battle of Lewis in 1264 was between King John and King Henry. So this knight has been christened Sir Genry. You actually did see him earlier in when we did our little intro. And he figures in a lot of adventures in some of our older programs, which we're going to be showing. We were always going to, we did some good programs over the last 3 or 4 years, and some of them we're resurrecting as well as bringing on new programs. So I hope that that's going to keep you amused and happy. I hope that you enjoy this steam engine, which is behind me. Now I'd better tell you some important things, I think, because I've got a smile on my face this morning, but it is not all good news, I'm afraid. We have to be careful Already, we now have to wear masks in a whole host of places that we've been used to having freedom. I mean, not least of which is the bus. And I actually was quite amused the other morning because I was holding my mask as I got on to the bus, and the driver, who was wearing a mask, said it's against the law to get on without a mask. So I didn't quite understand him, just understand him. I held it up. But I thought, no, here is a man wearing a mask, warning you that you've got to wear a mask, and you can't understand a word he says because of his mask. Those are the sort of things that we're going to have to get used to. I'm quite sure that we're going to actually develop a new language because of people trying to talk to one another through a mask. If you're a little hard of hearing, and I've got one ear that's just a little bit dodgy. Is it, which one is it? Yes, it's this one. It's just a little bit dodgy. Then sometimes conversations can be very, very amusing because somebody says something and you think that you understood and you give an answer which is totally inappropriate. That's the sort of conversations we've got. Anyway, we'll get back to some of those things after we've looked at the headlines. The Daily Mirror: beware the cost of Christmas. Now, when I first saw that headline, I thought, well, yes, inflation and so on, but our price is going to jump. But in fact, what they're saying is that the new year, the virus coming is now said to be very severe, very dangerous by some, and that if we actually neglect to look after ourselves at the moment, and we go to places where we shouldn't and ignore social distancing, and we refuse to wear masks or whatever, and that a lot of people still refuse to get the jab, which is their right, but nonetheless, is that the cost of Christmas is going to be lockdown. And believe me, I doubt if any small business is going to survive lockdown. And that frightens me because big businesses cared less. Flim flam. They keep on saying, oh, we're there to help you throughout lockdown. Well, they're not. They don't change their spots one little bit. And not least of which is because they're damn computers. I've got a real war on against computers. A real war against computers. But their PR is flim flam. We're here to help you. Balderdash. Balderdash. I have to say balderdash because I'd love to say balls, but I'm not supposed to. Oh, yes, I am. So what we don't want is we don't want another lockdown because that would be devastating both socially and economically. But what the Mirror is saying is if we don't treat right now a little bit more cautiously and go back to doing some of the things we've been advised to do, then we could easily see that Christmas is going to be very, very costly indeed. The Guardian: the next virus could be more lethal, warns scientists behind a vaccine that is being prepared for the variant that is coming into play right now. I've forgotten what that variant is called. It'll come back to me in a moment. But the new variant is... so some scientists are saying it is very, very dangerous, and it could be even worse than the original. Now, we keep on getting mixed signals because everybody just offers their opinion. And in some ways, I rather approve of that because we wouldn't be in existence if we didn't have opinion. We are an opinion station, and we have people from all over the world expressing opinions. And we are drawing back some of our commentators now. And but by the same token, if government is to give a lead, it must actually speak with one voice, which it's not. Is Boris says something and the cabinet minister says the opposite. Now, if I was Boris, what I would do is I would bring him in once and say, you do that again and you're out, mate. Because actually the cabinet isn't very strong. And nobody would weep if a few people were tossed out through the door of number 10. And if they did it a second time, I would say, well, you were warned, go, and we'll get somebody else in. Perhaps now is the time to test some of the backbenchers, some of the bright young things who are likely to be government in the future. But anyway, nobody is speaking with one voice as usual, and that's a problem. The Daily Telegraph: more than 300,000 housebound yet to get booster jabs. What it says is there are 300,000 people. Where they get the estimate from, I have no idea. But there are 300,000 people who are stuck at home and aren't able to get out to get their jabs. And the government has said that in cutting back, or the NHS has said, well, we ain't going to go around houses pumping them full of the vaccine. Excuse me. And indeed, one can understand that the NHS is pretty pressed at the moment, and that it would be an added burden. But nonetheless, if we've got 300,000 that are vulnerable, that's an awful lot to catch the virus. Right, okay. The I paper, backlash over new travel test rules as families face the cost hikes. Now we're on to the cost of things, because you're going to have some more tests. If you go abroad or you're coming in from abroad, you're going to have some tests, and whichever way you count it, whether it's time or money, it's going to cost you. And what the I is saying is that nobody's very happy about that, and everybody's saying, no, that's cutting down travel. And the travel industry itself has said it will have a great impact if it gets too severe, these tests. The fact of the matter is, we have to weigh people who want to be travel or have to travel is what they have to do to protect the rest of us when they get back. Now, I think that is open to debate, but nonetheless, I think if I was the government, if I was Boris, I would err on the side of caution, and I would say I can't take a risk, because in the long run, his job is at stake. When he makes a call, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and he has got a problem. He's got a real problem, because he's not going to be prime minister anymore. Either he'll be ousted like Margaret Thatcher in a coup, or the electorate will see to it that he's shown the front door. So if I was him, I would be erring on the side of caution. I would not want to see hundreds of thousands going into hospital or catching the virus and actually dying. Now, one of the things about recent numbers for COVID is that the virus has been so mild that we haven't actually seen deaths from it. Well, we have seen some deaths, but I mean, they're nowhere near the original virus, which ravaged through us and killed a lot of people in the most unseemly and difficult circumstances. But if this new virus, and if I'm listening to my advisors and they say, listen, Keith, listen, Boris, this is a nasty one. You better make up your mind what you're going to do. I think I would say I'm going to err on the side of caution. And of course, there are always people there that say, no, you're taking our freedoms away. Yeah, well, of course they are. Where's the backlash coming from? The travel industry, according to Hammerblow, that people will need to test negative for COVID-19 before arriving in the UK. The paper says the new policy could add up to £800 to the cost of a family holiday. So if off you go for a holiday, when you come back, it's going to cost you to have new tests and be isolated and so on and so forth. So, you make up your own mind. I'm just telling you what the papers are saying. The Sun, throw away the key. The Sun goes, justice for Arthur, for the little boy who was battered to death by his stepmother and father. And most horrific when it comes out. It would seem that for about a length of 30 days that he was pummeled or punched or a limb was broken. And the whole of social services and the police and the government and everybody, the hospitals, all ignored the signs that this little boy was being so badly abused. His life was so miserable, perhaps he'll be happy in death. But this was just dreadful. And what the Sun is saying is that we should offer life imprisonment for people who abuse their children like this. And it was a horrific case, absolutely horrific. The Metro, right, okay. It says, you Barra, watch out. The Metro, which is the London paper, of course, is warning that another winter storm named Barra is due to hit the UK. with thousands of families in northern England still without power after Storm Arwen 11 days ago. We haven't been able to give back some of the necessary things for a decent life or any sort of life to people in the north who are very, very badly hit by that storm. And now Barra is going to come roaring in and probably make life even more difficult. It's going to make life difficult for us down here as well, apparently. It will hit travel plans and it'll hit us all from going out into the street. And in many ways, one of the things about lockdown is that we are able to get out into the street. And if Mother Nature decides otherwise, perhaps she's warning us, because nature has a strange way of actually smacking the fingers of mankind and saying, hey, listen, you just remember who's the most powerful. That sort of thing is going to keep us indoors. Luckily, it looks as if it's only going to be one day sweeping through. But if in fact what we do is to get a series, as they often do in the United States, then life is going to be pretty miserable coming up to Christmas, because we won't be able to move, we won't be able to get outside. So that's what the Metro is on about. The Times: the PM plans to let ministers throw out legal rulings. It's a fresh war with judges after several reversals, not least of which is that I think it's Prince Harry. There was a case against the Daily Mail, and the Mail appealed, and it went to the Supreme Court, and it was thrown out. The appeal was thrown out, and on very, very dicey grounds. So the Times says that Boris plans to let ministers ignore legal rulings. And after all, in many ways, the most powerful unit in the land is the House of Commons. Yes, okay, you can then say that power is handled by just a few, by the cabinet and so on. But the House of Commons can smack even the government. It's the most powerful unit that we have in our form of governance. And God bless it, even though we get very upset with it, particularly in the days of Theresa May, when it got itself into a right mess, it's not a bad system. And so what Boris is saying is, look, some of these legal rulings have been very much sort of the sort that we tried to fight when we got out of Brexit, and we're not having them here. We will be able to overturn them. No, they will need the House of Commons to go along with them, but it wouldn't surprise me if with some of them that the House of Commons doesn't actually defy the Prime Minister. The Daily Express: at last, a Brexit shake-up to boost Britain's firms. The Daily Express says that they could help small businesses compete with giant conglomerates. The paper says the UK is set to axe onerous European Union rules, allowing smaller business to compete on a level playing field to secure government contracts. Well, I would love to think that was the case. And if by government they mean local government as well, it would be rather nice. For instance, with all due respect to the people that are in the position at the moment, is the PR for the local the council is abysmal. It's absolutely appalling. Why not put it out to contract? Why not give smaller PR companies a chance to bid for it? That's one I can see straight away. But there will be other things, like I'm sure that Stephen Catlin would like to see a competitive situation for gardens and so on, which the county council patently do not understand in Lewis, either their importance or how they're handled. So there are a whole multitude of things, and I must say that, okay, I'm expressing an opinion. I go with the Daily Express, and I go with Boris on this one, is let's give smaller companies a chance. Now, the big problem with all these things that are turning things upside down, the big problem is, of course, that they bring their own red tape, and small companies simply can't handle the red tape. I mean, that's one of the problems that we have here at Mirador is we've got a lot of talented people. We've got a lot of talented technicians. We've got artists. We've got producers. We've got directors. We've got presenters. But what we haven't got is somebody to handle the day-to-day bureaucracy and the administrative duties. Because nobody really wants to do that sort of thing at the television station. There's too much fun going on around. So that is a drawback. But anyway, at least it's a step in the right direction. So the Daily Star. Government year-old crimes don't need to be probed. Wanted. Massive hunt for Justice Secretary Dominic Raab. Missing brain. Oh, good old Star. It's got a picture of on the front page of a brain in a bottle that you would find in a laboratory, and then a picture of Dominic Raab next to it. It's going after Justice Secretary Dominic Raab. It says it's got a missing brain after he said the Christmas party were held in Downing Street in breach of lockdown rules did not need to be investigated because the alleged incident took place a year ago. The government has insisted no rules were broken. Well, you know, what are we on about? Well, I don't know what we're on about really. The fact of the matter is that petty crime is almost not investigated at all. The complaints about the police not paying attention to minor burglaries and so on and so forth are legion. So I don't see that really that I suppose that Dominic Raab is only taking the view that is in the arsenal of police activity. I think that there's got to be reform. And a lot of people think there's got to be reform. The police don't seem to think so. They defend their situation, and particularly because there's a lot of cybercrime, and there is. You know, I've been a victim of it two or three times now, and not because I've been scammed, but simply because it is easy for people to take money out of your account, and the bank washes its hand of it. No, that's not the fraud that we understand. That's happened to me 3 times now with I'll name them Lloyds Bank. And what they do is they have an independent inquiry, right? They go into it, but you don't give evidence. So what you do is you say, this is what happened. And then they get together, and eventually you get a letter saying, oh, well, we've looked at every aspect of this thing, and I'm sorry, it's not the bank's fault. Well, somebody took that money. And if it isn't the bank's fault, then whose fault is it? Because, you know, it's not as if I stood on a corner and held out my card and said, here, please, phone the bank and take a chunk of money. But there we are, you see, and that's where it is difficult for us to fight, as they used to say, to fight City Hall, is to fight the big boys. And that's what Mirador tries to do, is it tries to bring to account some of these excesses that big companies get into with their flim-flam, and which shouldn't be allowed. That's true also of local governments and national governments. We need to keep a watch on it. We need to make sure that people are aware of what's going on. And you can make your own mind up if it's not worth bothering about, which a lot of people would just shrug their shoulders, or whether, in fact, we should do things. Because we can be very militant as a public. In my view, we get silly nonsense stuff to get militant about instead of the real things, which is where big business and massive government and massive governance is taking advantage of us. My pet hate at the moment is the Data Protection Act. Is somebody is ill and you're not a relative, you can't find out what's wrong with them or how to help them and so on. But just let you step out of line and the local council can come and actually take a look into your bank account. How do you like them apples, right? Shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. And yet, most people just shrug their shoulders. Oh, that's government, isn't it? Well, it's not. Because if we keep on seeing our rights and our freedoms eroded, then what's going to happen is we will end up with the big things being eroded. And when the big things are eroded, you start to get into situations which replicate what happened on the continent at various, and in Eastern Europe, in various places. And you suddenly find that the bad guys have taken over. And the moment the bad guys taken over, they alter the rules, they alter laws, because they're able to make sure that we little guys don't stand any chance at all. Zero tolerance. Now, quite often, zero tolerance is used by the police to say, we're not going to stand for petty crime. But in my view, what we should be doing is at this level, at the level of Mirador, at the level of the ordinary citizen, is be asking questions and getting upset when some of these things occur. And we don't, you know. Oh, we get upset about all sorts of things. And, you know, organizing a food bank, no problem whatsoever. And I'm not knocking the organizers of food banks. But it's just funny that when there are some things which will erode our freedoms that come to light, is an awful lot of people who would say that they were good people, honest, decent citizens, just shrug their shoulders. And they leave it to people like us to yell and scream and shout. I don't mind yelling and screaming and shouting. In fact, I know that I'm a real pain in the ass to some parts of our society, shall we say, locally. But there is right and wrong, and an opinion is part of it. And public opinion can be very, very, very powerful. In fact, I was looking at freedom quotes, and I can't remember who quoted it, but basically, is some very wise men said, you know, the whole essence of freedom is to make sure that our freedoms aren't lessened, that we do it while we're free, because once we're not, we can't do it. And that's a lesson to be learned. Okay, that was the Star. How about the Financial Times? Lloyd's targets wealthy and rental properties in a fresh push for growth. What's that about? It's the new boss of Lloyd's Bank is looking to expand the banking group's ambitions in the property market and wealth management sector after years of poor growth. The Financial Times says that the paper has been plotting its annual update since taking as the chief executive, Charlie Nunn, when he took over as chief executive in August, has been trying to get an extra £4 billion war chest to play with in getting into the property market and the high value. Well, that's okay. I don't care what they do, as long as they actually improve their retail banking, because it's lousy. It's lousy. If I hadn't got an overdraft with them, I'd get out. It's just the overdraft. They complain when you have an overdraft. It keeps you as a customer. And believe me, they're not short on. You talk about Shylock in the Romeo and Juliet plays. And Shakespeare, the banks behave just like that, just like that. They're money usurers. Anyway, that's the spread of newspapers this morning. But strangely enough, in the review, they don't seem to have taken account of the Daily Mail, which I happen to have here. And it's Harry's swipe at Charles' Saudi donor. And the Duke of Sussex, dear old Harry, though they love to stay in the limelight, nothing wrong with that if that's what they want to do. But what he's doing now is he's having a go at his dad. What he's saying is, look, my dad knew that this particular chap that he donated to his charities and whom he recommended to get an honor, who is from the Middle East, was a bad lot. Because Harry had found out that he was a bad lot and that his father chose to ignore him. Now, Harry just seems to be very disgruntled with his family, the royal family. So you have to be very careful about what he's saying. But there is no question that he's raising some issues that will be close to our hearts. I'm all for people getting OBEs, CBEs, knighthoods, and even being appointed to the House of Lords, as long as they deserve it. But just doing it as a matter of rote or as favours, and particularly for cash, is totally wrong. That's an abuse of the system. And when you look at somebody, just because they are a sir or because they have got a title as a lord, is not necessarily mean that they've got any quality to them. I like to think that still I would look up to these people, knowing that they got it because of their worth, and not the worth of somebody in government who decides to pocket a few quid to make sure that they get the title. There we are. So Harry is okay. On the back page is the sports, by the way, is the Formula One. Those people who are interested in Formula One is the race yesterday, which was in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. There we go. It is the Easter Gate. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is there was some controversy when Lewis Hamilton bumped the rear of his rival's car, Verstappen, and actually won the race by the skin of his teeth. And so they stand level in the championship stakes. Now, some people would say, who cares? Formula One is Formula One. But it is a major sporting event. There's no question. It's extremely popular. It's one of the most popular sporting events that we have around. So that's what the major story of sports is. A little bit of upset in Formula One, and with now it makes it exciting for those people who like Formula One and like racing cars. Is because the next one, the last one of the season, means it will whoever crosses the line first or crosses the line ahead of the other will win the championship. So there we are. That's where it is at the moment. And I have no idea. Oh, it's 8:47. Goodness gracious me. We really are motoring, aren't we? Let's just take a little... Well, there we are. This is Mirador Television, and behind me, a wonderful steam train. They just really are magnificent things, steam trains. Many years ago, when my grandson was about 3 or 4, we took him to the Bluebell, and he'd never seen a steam train before. He stood on the platform, and suddenly this hissing, steaming, rattling engine puffed into the station onto the platform, and his little body shook with excitement. He had never seen anything like it. And of course, I grew up in the age of steam, where I'd never even anticipated that anything else would pull a train. But to him, absolutely magnificent. And long may organizations like the Bluebell Railway exist so they can bring us engines, puffy engines, similar as the one that is sitting behind me at the moment as the snow gently falls to the ground. Will we see a white Christmas? No, not really. Although the weather is just so topsy-turvy at the moment that it could easily be. Who knows? I suppose that a white Christmas would be something. In fact, somebody challenged me the other day, so I bet you've never seen a white Christmas, Keith. And I did, actually, because the winter of 1948, I think it was very, very severe. I was only a little boy, but I remember it quite clearly, and walking through banks of snow, and that had to go and get wood from a local farm to heat the house. And my grandmother got me to pull my sledge. And as we struggled to the farm and got the wood and got it back home. And of course, we'd still got rationing because it was only 3 years after the war. So it was a difficult time. So even though it was a white Christmas, it didn't impact on me as a young boy that this was unusual. But it would be lovely if before I popped my clogs that I saw a white Christmas, and some other people I think would think the same. Anyway, you're watching Mirador Television out of Lewes, East Sussex. Local news, just a couple of things. The lady fell from a building in Hove on King's Esplanade yesterday. I don't think she died, but nobody was giving her condition. But that was the stuff that, well, the big excitement of the day, if you like. Interesting, because Saturday I went into Brighton for the first time in a long time. I suppose I've only been to Brighton about twice in the last 12 months because of lockdown. And the same to London. So I've been very much a Louisian. it's close to home. But I was in that sort of area, and I think that makes it sort of interesting. The other thing is that we in Sussex apparently are heading the. I'm having people flash through to say good morning, and thank you very much, Gary Taunton, who will be in the new year will be doing a program for us of sketches. He's just come through to say good morning. Hope I'm okay, and various other people have sort of come on to my personal thing, because it flashes over the news headlines. Believe it or not, I must be more important than the news headlines. No, you all understand these things flash up when somebody sends you a personal message, and it's nice to get those sort of personal messages. Let's see, where are we? What time is it? It's 8:51. Now, just to alert you again. Oh no, I'm sorry, I forgot to say that the other thing is that in Sussex, we are ahead of the national average in the growth of COVID. Now, that probably should be expected, because we do have a number of top leisure centres, cities in our area. I mean, Eastbourne, Brighton, Hove, and cities to the west and the east of those that are popular tourist places, Hastings, Chichester, and so on. So there is naturally people conglomerate rather more in those areas than they do in the rest of the country. But what it has meant is that we are in more danger. So do be very careful. Do be very careful when you actually see your get on the bus or go into a place where you're supposed to wear a mask. It is a pain in the bum. I know it's a pain in the bum. And we've got so used to having a little bit of time where we didn't have to wear a mask. But do wear it. The only thing is that, of course, in a restaurant, you can take it off. Otherwise, you can't actually eat the goods that you're expecting. So Mirador Television at 8:53. That's about 7 minutes to 9 o'clock. On Monday, the 6th of December, heading up towards Christmas. We had a great Thursday late night shopping last Thursday. We will have your favorite people with us, Fergus Wood, tomorrow morning. Fergus is interesting because some things he has got a very wry sense of humor, and others he takes quite seriously. And since he is the youngest member of our team, we take him seriously as well. And then there is Stuart Dalby, and we've dubbed ourselves, or he's dubbed us anyway, Oliver Hardy and Stan Laurel and Hardy, the comedian duo of the 30s and the 40s, perhaps even earlier than that. And I must say that the two of us do see a lot of amusing things around us that other people might not, and it makes us laugh, and perhaps we then make people laugh at those as well. So Stuart will be with me on Wednesday, as he normally is, and then on Thursday, sadly, Andrew Sloan had a death in the family and couldn't appear last week, but he will be back on Thursday. And then when we get around to Friday, it's anybody's guess. Sometimes we'll have people, sometimes we won't, sometimes we'll have unusual things. But I hope that you'll find that Mirador Television is worth watching. And I hope, against hope, because we're getting to the point where I have to say, I'm I'm hope that I do the right things this morning, and that I bring to you another 2 hours of programs that you will probably enjoy. So Mirador Television is ready to kick off as long as I actually kick in the right direction in another 5 minutes, because it is 8:55 now. If I do the right things, we hopefully have got some good programs for you, and I won't have to send out for Tony to come rushing in to sort out the technology. But I suppose it's down to me whether it works or not, but let's hope that it does. Okay, I think that everything should be all right. Let's hope that the sound is working. I can't actually see that it is on this, but it's supposed to be a built-in microphone. And let's hope that I haven't been wittering away for an hour. But I'm quite sure that some people would let me know, particularly the ever faithful Mickey Connors would have said, "Hey Keith, can't hear you," and he hasn't said that. So hopefully I've done the right thing so far. All right, let's do one last quick roundup of the newspapers before we go, and before we try an experiment and bring you something else that is of interest. The Daily Mirror, beware the cost of Christmas, is its headline. And that headline means beware not that it's going to cost us a lot for Christmas financially, but it may, if we're not careful, that it may create a fierce lockdown in the new year. The Guardian, the next virus could be more lethal, warn scientists behind a vaccine that they're preparing to protect us from. The Daily Telegraph, more than 300,000 housebound have yet to get their booster jabs. Those people who are unable to get out of the house. And in fact, the NHS has said that doctors probably are not going to go pounding into houses to give the jab. But, you know, this question of the NHS and getting face to face with the doctors is still a controversial one. So God only knows what's going to happen there. The eye is that there's a backlash over new travel test rules as the families face cost hikes. They say it's going to cost the average family 800 quid to go on holiday and get all the tests for COVID going in and coming out. So they're saying that particularly the travel industry is saying, listen, what are you trying to do? Kill us? And I have some sympathy for the travel industry, but nonetheless, since particularly flying in and out of the country is the way that viruses and infections come, we do have to be very careful. The Sun, throw away the key, and that refers to the sentence which many considered too light for the couple that murdered little Arthur. The Metro, you better watch out. We got a storm Barra is on the way, and there is a weather warning out tomorrow for our area. Today it's going to go to 8 with a fairly stiff breeze, but tomorrow we could all be blown off our feet. So do be careful. Today we can expect showers as well. So a bit of rain around. The Times, the Prime Minister plans to let ministers throw out legal rulings. That is, they're getting fed up with light sentences or what are perceived to be unjust sentences or decisions made by the higher courts on legal technicalities. The Daily Express, at last, Brexit shake-up to boost Britain's firms. What it says is the government is, of course, the Express is a very pro-government newspaper. And it says it's a shake-up to boost Britain's firms. It is the Daily Star. Although that boost, by the way, is for small businesses. And the Daily Star wanted a brain for Justice Secretary Dominic Raab, who says, oh, don't be so silly. It's a year since we broke the rules on partying Downing Street last year, so forget it. It's not worth the investigation. And he's probably right, actually. Lloyds targets wealthy and rental properties in a fresh push for growth, according to the Financial Times. And that is a bank which has got some considerable problems with its retail things. So that's me for the moment. And what we'll do is we'll find out how to say a goodbye, and in the meantime, we'll try very hard to see if we can get our next programs underway.
Platform aiming to get investment for renewable energy companies. Today I'm going to talk about the local district council here in Lewes and their plans update what they're doing about climate change. Back in the day of 2019, I attended a sustainability meeting when the council spokesman said they are aiming for a target of zero carbon emissions by 2030. You might ask, well, how are you going to do that? Well, we're going to have to put lots of electric charging points in place and plant lots of trees. And I said, well, do you have a sort of joined up plan about this, like Invesco, which is a company here which puts solar panels in school roofs and to reduce the carbon emissions. They thought joint up, in the sense they will plant so many solar panels which will result in a certain number of carbon emissions reductions. And they said, well, no, we don't do that. And I thought, no. Anyway, time went on, and they put up this new plan recently. The district council has got a new leader each year for the Green Party, and they are doing sort of the talking list of what they're doing. And a couple of things, there's some, it has some things that there is protecting South Downs. They would be, first of all, they would decarbonise the council's housing stock. But that sounds very strange to me. As 85% of the houses in this country are heated by gas. Is the district council seriously thinking of getting rid of the gas boilers in the council's housing stock? It will cost a fortune. They used to get rid of the ones and begin to replace them with air-fueled heat pumps, which opening bid, it was £10,000 to get them, whereas a gas boiler cost £3,000. And so, are they going to actually pay that money? I know the government is now giving grants to have electric heat pump, air-fueled heat pump, but that's probably about £5,000. Well, how the social housing people can find the extra money? Next, further down on the list, they've actually said here that one of the things is developing an electric vehicle charging points proposal. But what does that mean? I've been around Lewes trying to count the number of public electric points, and there's only 5 I can find. And then they said we put down to 2,800 trees, but they haven't come up with what kind of carbon emissions that is made. So it all seems a bit bogus to me, quite frankly. So it seems partly it's a political thing that the Green Party is now being in charge. Now, it all sounds like a sanctioned rebellion. excellent in identifying the problem, but they don't seem to know what to do about it. Assembly the district councils really identify the problem, but don't seem to know what they're doing about it. And so that's where we are. I try to ask those people, what they think about it, and people say, oh well, that's just typical of the local council. They've also, in this update, they've talked about progress in regional partnerships with Sussex University, Greater Brighton Economic Board, National South Wales National Park, and so on and so forth. But they don't say, in fact, what they're actually doing, what kind of money they're putting in, what kind of results they're having. And I think that's we should be told. And I sort of slightly blame the Greens for sort of lack of managerial expertise. And I think other people think the same about managerial role. There was recently an article in the New Statesman which says the Greens missed the opportunity to become the party of opposition in Parliament. And the reason for this, they said, is, the New Statesman said, is that they've got all the leadership in technology. They have two leaders, nobody's ever heard of. And we do have a first past the post system in this country, but increasingly people vote along presidential lines. In fact, they vote, like for example, conservatives would vote for Boris rather than the Conservative Party, and similar with Labour. People would vote for Keir Starmer or not the Labour Party, but then students. So the Greens don't seem to have a clear leadership policy. And that really is all wrong, isn't it, really? Because they should be doing what they keep saying they need to do, and don't seem to be doing it. So, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
And you're watching, or you're about to watch, or you're exposed to Mirador Television. Mirador Television comes out with Lewis south coast of England. It's a historic place. It's a historic town. It's a county town of East Sussex, where many, many historic occasions in the English history books take place. We are small. We bill ourselves as terrific TV, tiny town, but we don't believe that we should be just local in the sense that we will be parochial. We are local, but we're not parochial. We like to look at things around the world and situations and relate them to our own town of Lewes and give us a wider perspective of why things happen in the world, where they happen in the world, what happens in the world, and how it happens in the world. And that we hope that in converting that to our own thoughts of what happens here, we can give others a perspective around it. So we're international, but we're local. And I hope that you'll enjoy what we have to offer, which is a little view of local politics, international politics, history, features on a good many variety of things along our coast, which is the most interesting coast, from piratemen, smugglers, people planted estate, battles galore in medieval times, and lots more to boot. And we try hard to bring those to you for entertainment while making a few points that we think are important around the world. So that's Mirador Television. Mirador, which means a little terrace. We're a little terrace. Mirador Television. I hope you'll stick with us. We're here to stay, we hope. Keith Hayes, Mirador Television in Lewes, East Sussex, and the coast of the United Kingdom. Little Pip.
I was only 18 when I set off for Canada. It was a long way to go. It was on 5,000 to 6,000 miles, all on my own, with adventure. And the first year was pretty good. I was spent the 2 semesters of a while at the university. And then I got a job for the summer. And I went out into the Rocky Mountains between two small communities, most very small communities, called Revelstoke and Golden. Wild, it was wild. And my job was to help build the Trans-Canada Highway between those two places, because there was no road there. The only way in was by rail. A train that would be built many, many years, almost a century ago. I remember on that first journey, getting off the train at a place called Swelling. I thought I was at the end of the earth. It was raining. There was mud and streams flowing down the mountainside. There was nobody there. And there I stood beside the train, watching my safe train when it came into view, disappear into the mountainside. And I have no idea how you feel that first few days. But it was very fortuitous because I learned a number of things. Space, fortuities, I learned in the Rocky Mountains. I was surrounding it. On the other occasion, I wore my school blazer with the mitre on. In use, I was in a Canadian setting. And boy, did they know it. And I would go into the bunkhouse on one occasion. I reached the great gravy train because the chap had a very heavy accent. They were sitting opposite to himself. That's not great. I didn't understand. So I smiled at him and poured the gravy all over this wonderful meal, expecting to find out with the chocolate sauce. The chocolate sauce sitting on the table, when in fact you got potatoes and meat in front of you. Oh, that was a learning curve. And the same chap said a little later, he said to one of his companions, you sure can tell that young fellow is English, aren't you? And I thought, well, yeah, I hope you can. He said, why do you say that? Because he eats his pie with a spoon. Canadians always eat with a fork. How to give away. Never mind the blazer, never mind the haircut. But it was that summer that my actual athletic powers really came, because I broke the half-mile record, the high ground record, within minutes of each other. And I also, not sure of the record, but did pretty well in the weightlifting part. That was a few days later. But first of all, to the half-mile record. When you go to work in these camps, there's not much to do. You work, you sleep, you eat, and after a month or two, you get out and you pick up your check. Very nice it is too. But on a Sunday, no television, limited books, no newspapers, they would probably come midweek. So you just hung around. It was very boring. Understanding that, needing work done, the camp bosses would say, would you like to earn some more money? University students, wow, would I like to earn some more money? And you've got time and a half to work. Very nice. So this particular Sunday, I was deputed to go up the mountainside and start digging little potholes to see whether we could pick gravel or stones that they could use to lay on the bed of the road which we were doing. And so off I trotted, hey-ho, shovel slung over my shoulder, clambered up the mountainside, found a suitable place to start to dig holes. I started to dig away. After a little while, I heard some stones being loose on the railway track. I paid no attention at all, because there was a railway gang which lived, yes, they stayed up in a little hut on the railway site. And they, like us, had nothing to do on a Sunday, so they would earn as much for money going out, testing the thing. That's what I thought it was. I continued to merrily dig away at my hole, hoping that I would hit gravel between. It was back-breaking work. And then I looked up to see a huge grizzly bear coming down the mountainside, his beady eyes fixed on me. I hadn't had lunch yet. He was determined to have his lunch, and I was it. I threw the spade down, and I took off down the mountainside. Now I was dressed in work clothes. I had big work boots on. They came away across my ankles and foot soles and another. They were stopped toe. Hard stopped toe. If you walked on, you wouldn't crush your feet. And I took off down the mountainside at a great rate of pace. The spring runoff was still there. Water was still cascading down the mountain. So the mud must have been 2 or 3 feet deep at some stages. I never could avoid disappearing into the mud altogether. But at the side of the track, down the mountain I went, lickety-split, determined that this grizzly was not going to have me for this particular day. I came around a bend in the track, and there was a D9 Caterpillar tractor. Now, if you remember V9 construction site, if you've never seen a D9 Caterpillar tractor, they are huge. They are huge. And they stand about a story and a half. So if you look at a small house and try to guess that you're looking at just below the bedroom window, that's about the height 7, 8 feet. The driver said that I did not touch his vehicle. I did not touch the bulldozer. In leaping into the seat beside him and trembling with fear that this grizzly was going to come around and find that the D9 Caterpillar tractor was no obstacle whatsoever, and he would have double lunch. He'd have both of us. The old Caterpillar driver, the tractor driver, of course, had been around a long time, and he was killing himself with laughter. And that I'd come down the mountainside at such a rate, but he swore that I did not touch his vehicle, that I leapt on the ground and I got into the seat beside him. So I done 7 feet, and even in those days, the high jump record was only about 6 feet something. So there I had set one record, but I previously set the record for the half mile because it had been about half a mile. And I'd raced down the mountain to get out of the way of the grizzly, who wasn't stopping. He was coming after me, and he was determined, as grizzly bears can be, to have me as a meal. So, in talking to the driver later and figuring out at what time I actually saw the grizzly, at what time I reached his tractor, we figured that I beat the half mile record by a good 5 or 6 seconds. So, two records in one afternoon. And believe me, it's when the adrenaline gets going, it's amazing how it pumps you. It's amazing that you can do all sorts of things that you wouldn't do ordinarily. And it's a grizzly to help me achieve this marvelous record-breaking feat. And afterwards, I felt quite good about it, except, apart from the driver, there was nobody to confirm what I'd done. So I never ever got a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal for breaking this record. All I got was a giggle from the driver and perhaps a little self-satisfaction from knowing that I had been as speedy as I had, even though I was driven by a grizzly bear. And if you say, I'm not a grizzly bear, yeah, you can tell a grizzly. It's not only in size, but a grizzly, unlike any other bear, has a hump just behind his head. So it is easy to identify. But later on, I learned that black bears you can frighten up a little. The only time to worry about the black bear is if it stops younger, it's very protective of its cubs, or if it's ill, in which case it will pay no notice. But I later on managed to control black bears, brown bears, with very little problem, bravely waving my hands. But this was my first experience in the wild with a wild animal who was ready to be feral. He wasn't going to take a polite young Englishman who said, I'm terribly sorry to disturb you. Seriously, he wanted me. A few days later, I was working around the camp when a foreman came and said, Pete, go with Joe over there, take this pump and take it up about 100 yards above the camp because there is a spring there. And later somebody will come and they will attach the pump to the spring and you can have some fresh water. Now the pump, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 pounds. It was heavy. Joe grabbed one side of it and I grabbed the other. We could just about manage it. And we went up to the spot designated by the foreman, found the spring, and as I was about to put it down, together we were about to put it down, this huge pump, I heard a rustle in the trees behind me. I looked around, and here was this great big teddy bear face, gazing through the greenery at me. Now, I suspect this was not a grizzly this time, but it was a brown bear. But I didn't know the difference at the time. And anyway, all I could see was its face. And it was a teddy bear face, and he was looking at me. We obviously disturbed the bear when he was looking for various bits of greenery and nuts and so on and so forth to solve his hunger problem. But I didn't know that. I yelled at Joe, bear, and took off back to the camp. I didn't break any speed records, I don't think. But when I got back to the camp, I realized I'd left Joe well behind. The pump was still in my hand. I'd carried, but it took two of us, struggled two of us to take up to the spring. I brought back on my own because the adrenaline had flown and the fear factor had kicked in. I performed superhuman feats. Well, what an athletic summer that was. And I'm happy to say that as it did go on, I learned a bit more about the wildlife. And although I stay was very careful about meeting a bear in the wild,
generally speaking, unless it's a grizzly, don't mess with a grizzly. Then what you would find is that the other bears are as shy of you as you are of them. And a little arm waving, and you get rid of them. And actually, much later, many years later, I lived on the Steelhead Trout Fishing River in North Vancouver. I had 3 acres and a beautiful house, and it was right at the base of the mountains. I had a Great Dane, a wonderful dog, very effective, but also very protective. I was sitting around on the banks of the river, and once again I heard a rustle. Didn't pay too much attention. And then I looked up, and here was a huge black bear coming towards me. Well, I'd learned my lesson this time, hadn't I? I raced towards him, yelling, "Bear! Bear!" waving my arms and saying, "Don't away!" I was saying to him, "Push off." And at the same time, yelling to my wife, "Get the dog in, get the dog in." Because my fear was that the Great Dane would come rushing out, would protect me. The bear would, with one swipe, break the dog's neck. Bears are terribly powerful animals. Instead, the bear took one look at me when he became aware of me waving my arms, put his nose in the air, sniffed, and sort of said, "You're not worth bothering with," and ambled back into the orchard and paid absolutely no attention. Luckily, my wife had kept him on me, so both the dog and I were saved on that particular afternoon. But if you really want to be athletic, get yourself into a situation where a grizzly is coming at you. Because believe me, the adrenaline will kick in. And if you can possibly record it on your camera, on your phone nowadays, while you're doing that, you can prove that you will beat world records. In my case, a half mile, I jump, all in the space of a couple of years or so. Well, that was my first experience in the summer in Canada. And I had many more. And hopefully I'll get the opportunity to tell you about some of them. So then, see you.
Hello and welcome to Mirador Television. We are the biggest little TV in the world, based in Lewes, East Sussex in England. Our aim is to entertain and to spice things up a little. We will also keep an eye on the local politics, because let's face it, someone has to. Our programs range from stories about the local people to stories about people from all the way across the pond. Brought to you by our wonderful colleagues in New York. So why not sit back, relax with your favorite cuppa, or maybe your favorite tipple, and enjoy. This is Mirador Television.
This is a story of a lady called Tanya. It's not her real name, but I'm not hiding my real name. And I'm not hiding the place that I'm telling this story from. My name is Keith Hayes. The place that I'm broadcasting from is Lewes in East Sussex. Tanya is the novel of that story, because it is better that she is not identified in the story, and yet the story is about her. Those who know me, and those who know the area, will readily identify her as somebody else. The story is true, and it's an appalling story of lack of care by a community. That's our community. I was interested to see how much money we actually spend in this country on mental health. I couldn't believe it when I saw the figure. 12.2 billion pounds. That's what we spent on mental health. 12.2 billion pounds. Where that money goes to, I have no idea. Because my experience, and this is my story, as well as Tanya, is that none of it filters through to the local government. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does filter through. Maybe it is just apathy and complete incompetence in the way that we treat the mentally ill in this community. Tanya, I can tell the story because I've followed and been close to Tanya for almost 5 years now. But there are other friends and colleagues who have suffered similar fates. And the way they've been treated is not much different to Tanya. So there's some evidence that what I'm going to tell you is supported by other instances, if not facts and figures. There seems to be little support from the local council. There seems little support from the churches. There seems little support from the health services. There seems little support from the charities. There seems little support from the government. There seems little support from our elected representatives. None of these people want to get their fingers dirty. They want to brush the question of mental health under the carpet. There will be howls of outrage when this accusation is broadcast. But the fact is, I have been close to these things for 5 years. And I can tell you that this story is a woeful story of society which has washed its hands of the mentally ill. Certainly in Tanya's case, and certainly in the case of others that I know who had a strain on their mental capacity. Perhaps I shall use some terms which are declared unacceptable by the people that twist and turn our language and our supposed feelings in society. I don't care. It's about time somebody said what is going on. And the fact is, what's going on is nothing going on. That is the tragedy. 12.2 billion pounds. For the life of me, I can't find out where it's going. Let's, for a moment, talk about the local council. When Tanya came to me, she came at the behest of a request in a church newspaper. She was looking for somewhere quiet to study. The 45-year-old, recently handsome lady, well dressed, well turned out, intelligent. She was looking for somewhere quiet to study. But the 45-year-old, recently handsome lady, many well-turned problems ranging from paralysis to somewhere ups and downs of mood changes, mood swings, and the whole. And basically, what our society is doing to accommodate this local is to die and misuse it. All this is difficult. I'm not taking her as a kind of approach. she will stop people in the street and start to argue about politics of one sort or another. She will get offended if she thinks that somebody is associated with devastating her native land, which is not the UK. She will take offense if she thinks that you're delving into her private life. And yet, she's also a wonderful painter. She is wonderful with children. She is wonderful with animals. And she can make a garden look so supremely beautiful that you don't want to leave. Nobody wants to know. They want to know the good, and they avoid the bad. When she's raging, she can be devastating. She can threaten all sorts of things. She loses all reason. She loses any compassion that she may have for anything. She can become threatening and overbearing. That's her illness. It's her illness that is not her. What do we do? The local council didn't want to know. They just went through the motions of, oh, she's coming to stay with you. In that case, we'll up the council tax. But your form says that if somebody is ill, for that matter, if somebody is a student, that they're exempt. This lady is both. The form doesn't allow for somebody to be both. The lady at the front desk, who was supposed to be a specialist in council tax and what exemptions are, didn't know what the answer was. She didn't know what to do. And so she said to me, why don't you write to the council and explain the situation? And perhaps we'll get an answer. Well, I did what she asked. I wrote. Still haven't received a reply. And that was 4 years ago. Things get lost, you see, when people don't know what to do and don't know how to handle the situation. And anyway, this woman isn't a homeless person anymore. She's living somewhere. Back it goes to the finance department. We don't accept that there aren't two people living in your premises. Well, I faced them down. You want to take me to court, which is what they threatened. Threatened, yes, threatened. Because some of those letters that are spewed out by the computer are threatening. You want to go to court? I'll go to court. Most people don't turn up, but I did. Let's cut a deal. All right, I'll talk. Let's cut a deal. This lady is ill. This lady is in need of compassion. This lady is in need of a place to stay and to be able to some extent have a decent feeling about having paid for at least a little bit of it. All right. We'll get it sorted. If you don't go into court, you don't have this issue. You don't go into court. We'll fix it. Nothing happened. Fix it. So finance never said it was fair. When I actually asked what the heck was going on, what about the deal? The response was, that gentleman has changed his department. He's no longer in charge. We'll try and find out who's handling this. We'll get back to you. It is a long story. There are several chapters, many chapters. Of how she has been treated by the charities, by the medical, by the church, by the job center, by the very many divisions or organizations that are benefiting from 12.1 billion. Where it's going, I have no idea. I've been close to this lady now for 5 years. I've seen her section. I've seen the appalling conditions you wouldn't want to go to solve certain in which people with mental illness are contained. Yes. I've been to a tribunal where psychiatrists try their best to persuade the tribunal to keep the locked away. I've waited for the support which the tribunal told the local authority to provide. I've seen her when she's gone to various members of the Tribune Council. And my inside sources at the council say when they see people like Tanya going, they've done and done, who's going to handle them? No training, who's going to handle them? Who doors for short. The charities, we sort of think, oh, I wasn't about, oh, we don't want to, only if you want something. Oh, you cannot do it. Only if you're in some sort of thing. Goodness me. And just in case you wonder where this story is going, it will start 10 years ago. And she believes that she was very badly treated by the authorities, that her child was taken away from her. She claims that all the accusations are false. It's real interest. With any opportunity, every chance, every attempt to try and find out if in fact there was any merit in the story has been defeated by the courts, by barristers who contemptuously took away £500 for them, only to respond with one line letter saying we can all levels, particularly I have dealt recently with one lady who was half decent. I thought we were getting something. All was good. I thought that the local MP was going to help. What she said was a rallying cry. You're doing a great job, keep it up. For each one, I wait. I don't know what this lady is going to do. Satan, please. I hope it's going to be a good day that day on between but I do know is I can't help but feel sorry. I can't help but see that little child inside. I can't help but see that she has been wisdom. All hang out here. So sad, so sorry that we don't treat mentally ill as we should. Despite all this, despite the fact that we get better Okay, this is an introduction. In the next episode, I'll take you through bit by bit what has happened. I'll detail. She's still alive. She's still fair. I'm still the only one who is looking up. The rest of society, you and all the way. This is yours. And you is not for you. This Sarah, I'm going to get right to the point that you are an artist in Lewes, and I want to know, because I've never seen you before, I want to know how long you've been in what I would call the art game.
Okay, to be honest, I've done another 2 years. I've been professional in artists. I'm a level 5 person. And I haven't even shows in the past. And I've spent the time.
Right. Another thing, I mean, you wanted to do it all your life.
Absolutely.
And were you doing it before you turned professional?
I did. I've always kept it. I've taught for 7 years. I'm making portraits and moving the others and I loved it. And some people breaking down too. So, it's just so amazing, you know. So that's where it's came from. And I was just very professional. So I was getting that.
So you get people's emotions going so that you can actually capture that in your painting. Right. Well, now we're in Lewes, and there is a special type of painting that you've been doing. And I think it's over my shoulder or over your shoulder or someone's shoulder. So let's take a look at them. And will you explain what these are about? Because there are trees which are in the common to you. And in fact, the word tree is in your common. Okay.
Since lockdown the last 20 months, my husband and I use so much more meeting, so we really appreciate the brand a lot more than we know it and we know that this was just something I started using first last week and also she got us into a short 3 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago and I asked him a question because we all kind of knew that as a profession, we're straight to that. So she said, I did say, I don't want to do a collaboration or something like that. So it seemed to build emotion value. And we just got back in touch with them and said, well, guess what we're doing in collaboration about trees. And we thought, oh, a fantastic opportunity to show this is a slightly different style from our own business, but this is something that I just absolutely love doing. And we have another one, which is a choice for it, our choice every year. So, absolutely, photographs and trees and that's it.
Yeah. I suppose actually the trees, because of raising awareness of the environment, are actually what you would say is a good thing to be done.
Absolutely, it's going on. It's going on all the time. It's really bad.
And like people, there must be all sorts of different trees.
Absolutely, and I work in a road coach, so we get in touch with the voice of the nothing more than nothing to do with working on memories.
Right. So apart from displaying here in a tree environment, as it were, a tree display, will these specific your own gallery after you or are there more trees to be painted?
I think I really enjoy doing something, so I don't see the harm. People see the actual original photo on which people back the street as well, which is another that. But it's funny enough, everything have a new side because I have some lovely people to come to it as well. So
No, I am not an artist of any sort. I'm an architect for trees. But do you go and use it and paint trees? Because I thought you mentioned the word photograph. Do you take photographs of painting trees?
I do not, I want to be in photo
Taking care of many Lewis. Do you consider yourself to be a Lewis artist or a Bright artist?
I would say my home part-time work practice, but obviously quite definitely in the show as well. We do that in sentimental as well.
Right, and you've got to go with detail to put this together, it's right in the centre is the star word in Lewis. Will you be returning here with some of your paintings?
Absolutely. Should just have a myself on that.
So some of these other paintings are going to be kept under your arm and we're going to bring them up here. Now, when you first chatted to me, you pointed out that there are many facets to your art and to you as an artist. And I said, there isn't time enough for us to go into that. So I'm going to offer an invitation to you, perhaps come back 2 or 3 times over a period of, say, 3 or 4 weeks separation each, talk about the various aspects of your art. Because I do think that probably I'm in front of a lot of this, and I represent an awful lot of people who don't either understand art or don't understand the various facets of it. If you're prepared to explain that, you would be very happy to talk. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. My goodness, it's not often you shake hands nowadays. It's not. Yeah, thank you to Nina if she's there for letting us in. She's got to dash away. You've got to dash away. I've got to dash away. And we stay here. Everybody stay here.
Hello everyone, welcome to Miracle Thinking. You know, this little tiny studio here in Lewis, East Sussex, England, was very, very exciting. Myself and a lovely man called Tony Johnson, fantastic people, we've been out making talk shows for the last few years called Everyone Has a Story with Liza Page. Well now, I am so thrilled because these shows over the years have been, well, I treat everyone like this like they are treated. And I really know the right place to place these stories that can make so a terrific man living their lives for two ladies who happens to own real living and who inspired us to share our work on this stage. Well, I thought this was too good to be true, and I had to ask them one question. I said, "Hey, who will answer to it?" He said, "No, this is my story. This is the man taking me out to show the power." And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to like to have shows over the next couple of months. And I really hope you enjoy it because we've got really such a great village people's homes and to us and they sat down and they talked some of this to us and some of them really were absolutely heartbreaking. And I must say that a couple of them are really not sympathetic for what we've done. We let them have this gentleman having a civil life in some cases. Anyway, one of the first things that Tony and I did was in the Isle of Wight, Island Island. And I never forget this was this man I have been studying his work for many, many years. And I was absolutely astounded at the finding collection. Tony and I went to a history club very well, and we built this really beautiful and beautiful trip where we actually filmed this 4 years after Columbus was David Icke has become the most important people. Just thinking about the awesomeness of, can you say awesomeness? It isn't awesome. Forgive me if I'm but it's a really thrilling, incredible is he's been banned on several cameras with BBC naturally. So we're not interested in him. And the reason I asked Keith who he answered to is because the BBC, they're run by Gates, and the Freedom Radio is owned by Mr. Murdoch. So someone like David Icke or the other people out there that are trying to bring truth to us about the terrible comments. They're trying to silence us, so communism so here we go. This is our first episode of the series that we made on our really ready to go to the time of potential. Excited about it. Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning into Everyone Has a Story with Liza Page. My very special guest artist today started out at the age of 15 as a highly successful goalkeeper, but unfortunately developed arthritis in his hands, so that career was cut very short. From there he enjoyed respect and notoriety as a BBC sports commentator. And with the time and overwhelming desire to visit a room secret cesspool, whereupon, standing on a hill over there, he was spoken to by a voice from outer space. That voice told him he would go out onto the world stage and educate people about life on this planet. Relating this experience on the Terry Wogan TV show sometime later, he was ridiculed and called the proverbial nutter. Even though he returned to the show years later, after everything he had predicted had come to pass, and he never did apologize for allowing his guests to be humiliated the way he did. Very bad form, Terry, very bad form. This powerful presenter now packs Wembley Stadium and other venues all over the world with his one-man show. TV channels clamber for interviews, but his 17 meticulously researched books
does that fit? But because of the way it's put together, I never introduce something which I don't either explain immediately or is immediately understandable from what's gone before. And that takes the work, months and months of work. I mean, I started putting this talk together probably 6-7 months ago. And I've been working on it ever since to get it right. But then the easy part is walking on a stage and going through the thing and talking. That's the easy part. I love it because the energy in these events is fantastic, because you know you go, everything is energy, because everything is consciousness. Energy is consciousness. Consciousness is energy. So people's state of being generates frequencies that relate to that state of being, and those frequencies impact on the energetic field. This is why if you go into a place where there's been a lot of people suffering from depression, you feel a certain energetic energy field, a certain almost density energy field. You go into a place where there's been a lot of happiness and joy, and you feel it, because the energy and joy is a different frequency to depression. Thus, its impact upon the energetic field which we're interacting with is different. Thus, we feel a very different feeling when we go to one or the other. So when you're in a place with thousands of people who are open-minded, and great numbers of them at least are open-hearted, and we're dealing with information that is expansive in terms of awareness, consciousness, then that combination creates an extraordinary energetic field which everyone is spending the day within, and I love it because you know it's.
And that field for you, David, is getting larger and larger. It's been 26 years for you to get all this information together and sharing it with the world. As I said before, you know, I think your hour has arrived. People are quoting you so much more now than before, in a positive fashion. Whereas before it was, isn't that the chap who said he was the son of God? Incidentally, why was that picked on? Doesn't the Bible say we're all God's children or something like that?
Well, what I was saying in my own way, and I'm saying it in another way now, but I'm saying the same thing, is that we are all expressions of one infinite consciousness, one infinite awareness. You know, there's this massive blasphemy in religion that says you can't say that I am God. I don't use the word God personally, but people use the word God for this consciousness, this infinite consciousness. Well, from where I'm coming from, we are that consciousness. We're expressions of that consciousness. In other words, at one level, we're all the same consciousness, and all this conflict and division comes from the programming, which gives people the perception that we're all isolated from each other. So what this is a big area of what I talk about in relation to the program, because it's so fundamental to why the world is as it is. If you said to most people, who are you, they'd give tiny band of possibility. But beyond it is infinite possibility expressing itself in infinite ways. But if you say to people, I mean, I'm the personification of it, within that little sliver of frequencies, that sliver of possibility, well, actually this exists and that exists.
Oh, there we are. There's hopefully you can hear me. We have had a massive failure, apparently. I say that because I'm a non-tech person. How on earth we've got snow on me and my train is still waiting in the station patiently for me, I have no idea. But what has happened is that everything is working okay, but the sound, which is fine in the studio, is not going out to the whatever I would say transmitter. I'm that old. But however we transmit via YouTube and Facebook and other social media, there is something blocking the way. And Tony and Nick are both on the phone to each other at the moment and looking and diving in, trying hard to unblock it. So I do apologise that we've brought you, well, an hour and a half anyway, of people nattering without saying anything. Hopefully, the break an egg, it's egg on face at the moment, but break an egg you could hear. In fact, I'm almost sure you could, because Mick Connors was on this morning with warning us about the storm tomorrow. But the boys, who are pretty savvy when it comes to technical issues, are going to work on this for as long as it takes to make sure that tomorrow we can bring you our streamed program. And we do apologise for not being able to do it successfully and satisfactorily today. One of the things I did notice is that some of the selection of programs, it looks as if I'm the only person here, and indeed I'm not. We get a whole range of people, so I will spend the rest of the day trying to sort out one or two more programs, while Tony and Nick will get to grips with the failure. What do we call it? A massive hardware failure? Is that the technical term? A massive hardware failure. So those of you who understand these technical terms, I mean, to me, all that happened was the sound went. And I'm sure that's true of a number of you. Don't go away from Mirador Television. Wait for us to come back. Perhaps not today, Tony. We'll abandon things for today. It'll be tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning we shall be with you again, and we will again try to bring you some streamed programs. There's some interesting stuff there. I mean, David Icke was really in full flow. We could hear him in the studio. You couldn't at home. You could just see his hands flapping around. But interesting stuff, and a controversial character. And that's what we like. A lot of controversy on Mirador Television. So Nick says, so sorry. Tony says, full of apologies. It's not their fault. These things happen. They are brilliant when it comes to solving things, and not only that, but the moment I opened my mouth and nothing could be heard this morning, then Nick and Tony were on the job. They were on the phone, dashing into the studio to make sure that they could see what was wrong, they could put it right. So that's a long apology, but I didn't want you to think that we took it lightly, or we take you lightly. You, our viewers, are extremely important to us, not least of which is because we see ourselves as a community service. And no viewers, no community service. So for the moment, toodle pip. We'll see you tomorrow, and we will work on the sound, and if necessary we will kick this computer, because if you follow me at all, you know what I think of computers. Bastard things. Toodles. Let's see if we can play out. What should we do? Just the short extra, shall we? Yeah. The short.